Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Raising the Flipping Bar. I'm your host, Derek Marlin, and today we're going to dive into EXPCON. So, those of you that know our company, Elevation, people always ask me, they're like, oh, do you own your own brokerage? And the answer is no. And actually, that's probably a great podcast in and of itself of like, should you own a brokerage as an investor? Should you be on a team, so on and so forth. So we have selected, and we've been now there 2.5 years to have a team at eXp Realty. And the cool thing about that is by being a part of a massive organization from a brokerage standpoint, there are almost 90,000 agents within EXP worldwide. I want to say it's obviously United States, North America, and 24 total countries that there are EXP agents in. And so they were last year number one for overall transactions. I think they were slightly number two for overall sales volume, but definitely number one for transactions. And so we kind of get the best of both worlds where we have our own, way we do business. We run it through the brokerage, but we don't own it. And there's a lot of liability there. And that's the main reason why I don't want to own it. But today's episode is really talking about the great value and benefits you get, one of which being a huge national conference every year called EXPCON. And so I kind of want to set the stage and give you guys some framework for, again, our experience. So we're now in year 3 of working with EXP. Before that, my folks, we had 3 people with Elevation and they were licensed at Your Castle Real Estate, which is a great brokerage. We enjoyed being with those guys, but just they are local and we are working in other markets. We're attracting other agents in other markets and we're definitely going to be expanding, but then you don't get this type of a benefit. And so EXPCon 3 years ago, it was in Las Vegas. And we were literally only on maybe 3 or 4 months. And to show you kind of the inclusivity there. And even though we came in as like the new kids on the block, they actually asked me to speak. So I got to speak in front of about 250 other investors and investor focused agents at one of their institutional sales breakout periods. So that was awesome. And the other cool thing about EXP is, again, I know there's a lot of people that are like, oh, you just recruit people and it's just kind of a racket and a pyramid scheme. Again, podcast for another day, but call me, we'll talk about the differences. But more importantly, what I want to tell you about is how, even though it's a very large organization, it's a very flat organization. And by that, I mean the person who is a handful of levels, above my wife, Ann, who's our licensed team lead and our broker here at the Elevation team on the brokerage side. Shout out to Jesse Zagorski. He is a phenomenal rock star leader and real estate professional in San Diego, California. And he actually went from having a pretty significant brokerage that he owned and ran to running what we call an organization. So he has 1,700 people that all are a part of his organization or his family. So again, that guy is way higher up the food chain. I thought, well, I'm never going to meet this guy. It's going to be a long time. I'm telling you, 2 or 3 months in, he's inviting us to his private suite in Las Vegas at 2 or 3 amazing, very intimate masterminds with between like 25 and 100 people, again, out of his 1,700 person organization. And then I find myself in Ann and a couple of my teammates here locally in Colorado. He takes us all to dinner. He picks up the tab for everybody, just a super generous guy. But more importantly, he's helping all of us build our companies and our organizations. So fast forward to first year in Vegas. The last 2 years have been in Miami. So obviously not crappy places to be at a conference. The bummer that I'm always kind of a nerd. I feel like I probably go to too many of the sessions and I should really enjoy the actual locations that we're in. So we'll talk about that here in a second. But again, what is EXPCon? It is the national conference that gets held every year in October. This year, there were about 4,500 agents in attendance. I want to say Vegas is a little bigger. Obviously, you can hold even more people in Vegas. So I think there were 6,000 or 7,000 people in Vegas. So it was crazy. But the cool thing is, there are world-class speakers. And so again, we could never afford to bring in, Mindy Kaling from The Office. She was the keynote speaker this year and talking about women in business. Unfortunately, we missed that keynote because we had to fly home. Our girls are looking at colleges, so you can only leave 2 teenage daughters at home so long without them throwing a big fat party in your house. But I digress. The year before that, we got to listen to Brendan Burchard speak, world-class, personal development speaker. Jesse Itzler spoke, who was freaking amazing. If you don't know about Jesse Itzler, go look him up. He's kind of, I don't want to say under the radar because he's a billionaire and he's married to Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, but just a dynamic speaker. And then another guy, his name is Will Guidara, and he did a screenplay that or a TV script, I should say, that was created into The Bear, which is an awesome TV show. So like, again, you get world-class speakers there. Then in the afternoons, they do an insane amount of breakout sessions. So any type of real estate that you're interested in, they're going to have a crazy amount of sessions. So there's luxury tracks, there's investor tracks, there's first-time home buyer tracks, and then again, probably 4 or 5 speakers all day. And then what happens at night is the cool thing is they know we're in real estate. It's a social industry. It's a social business. They cut stuff off at 5 o'clock. And then from there are all these parties and after hours things and just ways to network and get to know people and have a ton of fun. So our more kind of intimate group in Colorado is called the Super Agents Collaborative. And that's about 150 people. Again, we're kind of the investor pillar of that group and people doing awesome business. And shout out to Barry, Monica, and Dan. Those are our friends and colleagues and mentors that we're doing a lot of business with at EXP. Well, a person who's even above Jesse, her name is Casey. She's an amazing leader, has a 3,000 person organization, and she rented this amazing yacht. And there was a couple hundred people on a yacht party. So again, just awesome things where you've got hands-on, nitty gritty tactical things from a breakout perspective. You've got big speakers, again, stuff that you'd have to pay hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to see in person. And then you've got all the networking things. And so the cool thing about that is what I'm going to do is we're going to break this episode up into 3 more parts. So we're going to talk about takeaway number 1, which is going to be the future of real estate is AI and content creation. So that's bucket number 1. Bucket number 2 is really focusing on your value proposition, whether you're an independent agent or whether you're a team of agents like us and obviously hyper-focused on investment real estate. So that's takeaway number 2. And then takeaway number 3 is more importantly kind of like what I learned, not only from just attending conferences in general, but this particular conference. Okay, guys, let's jump into takeaway number 1, which is the future of real estate is 100% focused on who can properly utilize AI and who can create great content. I don't care how experienced you are. I don't care, if you've done 1 deal or 1,000 deals. These are 2 things that we're seeing from a very, very high level on the industry perspective. And those are the people that are going to win. And so again, almost every other session either was focused on AI or had some sort of AI component to this. And the way that I'm saying it and thinking through this is AI as a system, a service, an app, if you will not replace real estate agents. Real estate agents will get absolutely destroyed if they are not using AI, in my humble opinion. And I'm trying to get better at it on a daily basis. And so we're going to kind of frame that out, but I think that's huge. And then I'm marrying both AI and content creation because it's just become such a great way to crank out more content, valuable content, bring your costs down to produce this kind of stuff. So again, these things are rapidly changing, but I'm thinking if you can pick 2 or 3 things from the next few minutes, and you execute on those things, that's going to help you really, really not only get ahead, but honestly, just not get left behind. And so here's a couple resources that I want to talk about, and then definitely check the show notes because we'll have links to everything. But a new one that, again, I just learned about. So I'm recording this 1 week after we got back from EXPCON. So I'm just scratching the surface on this new tool and platform, but it's called Lead Stream, and it's spelled LSTREEM.com, leadstream.com. And that's an amazing tool that I'm just going to dive into. It was crazy. On stage, there was a speaker, his name's John Lee, and he literally demonstrated how he created 6 different AI agents. So think of almost like an agent, like a person or an employee, or if you're a Matrix person, there's agents in Matrix. So let's not go down that rabbit hole. But he almost thinks of it as an employee. And then he gave personas and focus areas and expertise areas for each agent. And then what he does is he asks his quote unquote agent or person to help him with a specific problem. So if it's more of an admin type of a task, I'm going to blank on what the person's name was. And it was kind of cool. They were all females, which was kind of interesting. I don't know what his deal was, but that was just a way he kept track of everything. And this leadstream.com help you build out these agents. So again, I know 1% of it. We're just going to check that out. But I think that's going to be incredibly impactful. The second thing is the way that I'm looking at this is I kind of look at it from when search was really starting to grow from just a general internet perspective. And obviously there were 15, 20 different types of search engines. But at the end of the day, obviously Google is the beast and the 800-pound gorilla. I'm personally banking and I'm thinking that OpenAI and ChatGPT will be that as well. So there's probably 6 or 7 great platforms out there, whether you're using Perplexity whether you're using Claude. I know there's 2 or 3 Copilot through Gemini, through Microsoft. So there's going to be some great ones, and not to say you can't use it, but I'm personally kind of going as deep as I can with ChatGPT. And so with that, what you're able to do is you're able to build what's called a custom GPT. And I would highly, highly encourage anybody who's not doing it now. I think you're insane if you don't, but freaking pay $20 a month for the more premium type of edition, because it works. A, it's faster. B, it thinks deeper. And C, you can do a lot more with these custom GPTs. And so what I'm doing with that is I'm trying to create a point of reference, kind of like I talked about with John Lee, where we've got custom agents and custom, almost think of it as an app, but it's called a custom GPT to help me solve certain problems. And so I might do one that's more on finance, on business strategy, and on modeling. I've got one on sales and marketing. I'm trying to create one on social media and content creation within ChatGPT. And now there's now a lot of training out there. The way that I'm looking at this is maybe you spend, I don't know, under $100 for 1 or 2, really, really high level trainings, and you're going to be so much further along. So check out and think about building custom GPTs. And then the third takeaway on the AI front is, and we've been talking about this at the Elevation team, shout out to Rick Stubblefield, who we call the Wizard. He's really deep doing this. Thomas is doing this. I'm just starting, but essentially it's a way to build yet another custom GPT, or you can do this in any, AI platform that you're using, is to build out a board of directors. And so if you think of, people that you admire as business people that have a long-standing business history, and more importantly, have either books out there, content, TED Talks, what GPT and what AI will do is you'll be able to have them as your board of directors. And you'll be able to ask your board of directors problems and how to solve problems and decision making, and you'll get a recommendation as if you were sitting in a room with those people. So I would love to have you guys, DM me and or send us an email or whatever on who would be your board of directors. Again, I'm like really thinking through this right now. My board of directors are Richard Branson, Sam Zell, Alex Hormozy, Sarah Blakely, and Ed Milet. Those are kind of my top 5 for right now. I kind of wanted a diverse base. I wanted people doing different things. I wanted people that I've consumed tons of their content or read tons of their books. So those are the 3 takeaways from AI. Stream.com, building custom GPTs, and think of how can you create your own AI board of directors. And I think your mind is going to be blown if you're not doing this already. Let's quickly hit on content creation. So the cool thing again about being at a very, very large international brokerage is EXP already has all the tools for really, really accelerating your content creation. So we're taking that and we're just making our elevation content better. And then more importantly, each individual agent on our investor focused team is using that to help their own personal branding and crank out their own content. So yes, they're part of the Elevation team, but of course they're doing different things. They've got different focus areas, super different personalities. And that's what I love about our team. But again, through EXP University, and then EXP is also so large. When they find a really valuable tool or a valuable company or something like that, they usually just buy it. And then they say, great news, here you go. You get it for free. And so they bought Success Magazine and the Success brand, which has been around for like 120 years or something crazy like that. And they're revamping and relaunching Success Coaching. So now our people have access from a content perspective through a university platform from more of a tactical perspective. And then from a coaching perspective, especially on social media and AI, you can go through the Success Coaching program. So I think that's super, super important. And one of the things that I'm doing that I really kind of, again, I'm kind of like marrying all these different notes, and I got, as you can tell, I'm kind of fired up, like a million things going through my mind, is really integrating more of a personal message, even though it's your business content. And I'm totally guilty of this. I know you guys that follow me, you'd probably laugh, but my high school girls and teenage daughters say that I'm too businessy. So I do want to just make note that I have my Broncos throwback gear on for today. We're recording this on Broncos Raiders game day. So I'm going to the game. So I wanted to make this a little, less formal. Girls, Kate and Quinn, not as businessy as usual. The other cool thing is they point out, just do behind the scenes. People really, really like when you are a successful person or a successful team, orienter and manager, just show people what you're doing. Do that kind of whole behind the scenes thing. And I think along those lines, something that I learned a long time ago from Gary Vaynerchuk and VaynerMedia is document versus creating. So again, you think of like content creation, it's got to be pretty. It's got to be always well thought out. Like, don't get me wrong, you should put some thought into your things. But if you're just documenting what you're doing, you can really put out the masses. And then to me, it's almost like Malcolm Gladwell with that 10,000 hours thing where you don't become an expert in anything until you have 10,000 hours of experience. You can accelerate that timeline. So document versus create. And then more importantly, use AI and many AI tools to help you accelerate the amount of content you put out. And so here's 3 tools that we are either using or I'm looking to use. Again, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball, but I feel like I'm kind of keeping par and on track with things. Right now, we use a great software and platform called Opus Clip, and we use that right now to crank out a ton of social and to help produce our podcast. There's another thing that I started to use. I kind of got away from it, but I'm going to go back to it. We're actually going to be creating a virtual Elevation Academy. And the way that I can now do this, that honestly wasn't an option a handful of months ago, is it's voice recognition software, and it's called 11 Labs. And so I can essentially take my voice and I can create an Elevation Academy, which is insane. So you guys don't need to, watch my ugly mug, visually for 6, 7, 8 hours. That's why we have the in-person version, but I'm going to do it from an audio perspective. And then the other one that I have not used yet, and I'm super excited to do it, is it's called Base 44. But essentially that's vibe coding, and you can just create your own app or you can create your own coding. And so I think that's really, really huge. And again, we're creating 5 times the output, only spending less than $120 a month on 2 or 3 different services. So again, this is going to be huge. The other thing I wanted to give you guys is we listen to the leaders, meaning Glenn Sanford, who's the founder and former CEO of eXp Realty, now the current CEO, Leo Pareja, who's been in the trenches. That's what I love about Leo, is you've got a super bright founder in Glenn, who was in the trenches, who was with KW years ago and built his own significant team during the dot-com boom. And then Leo, who was doing a ton of institutional business, I believe in South Florida. These are people that are doing real deals. Sorry not to knock other people, but these are not people that are Wall Street folks running real estate companies. These are real traditional, I shouldn't even say traditional. These are people that are real estate focused, real estate centric. They've done deals. And I think that makes us, again, more of a flat organization. But here's a perfect example is Glenn Sanford. Our internal communication method was a platform called Workplace, and it was kind of hosted on Facebook. So think of whatever you're doing for Facebook as far as a group, but it's for 90,000 agents at EXP. Facebook wanted to get out of that business. And so they scrapped that. And then Glenn and the executive team said, okay, let's just migrate to Slack. Only 6 months later, he listened to the feedback from agents and everybody's like, this sucks. And so he literally created his own platform doing vibe coding himself. And it's going to be called the EXP Hub, and they just launched it. So that's a cool thing. I mean, he was up speaking at one of the sessions. He came back the next day and said, hey, I got those notes from you guys. I guess something wasn't working for people in other countries. He's like, oh, and I fixed it, by the way. Like who does that? It's crazy. So I thought that was super cool. The other thing is from a data perspective, Leo Pareja is obviously very, very tapped in as the CEO of EXP. And he is also saying it's going to be another challenging year. And I think people that rates are going to be, hopefully, knock on wood, lower, but it's not going to be easy by any means. There might be, he's seeing data that's showing a potential national pickup in transaction volume of about 5%. So slightly a little better. I always like to call it's going to suck less, but you really need to think of this as what we're calling separation season. So this is where we're essentially need to triple down on our effort, triple down on our focus and our energy to hopefully not only maintain, but grow a bit. I feel like if you don't do that, you're going to get left in the dust. All right, everybody. So takeaway number 2, focus on your value proposition so that you can attract the right people, whether it's people directly for your team, people with your larger organization, or even just people within your sphere. And I sat in on a great panel, and there were 3 really, really impressive leaders. One guy, his name was Rene Rodriguez, and he is a neuroscience expert and personal development expert and business coach and leading expert. I mean, the dude wears a lot of hats, but he kind of dropped a really interesting point that I've been thinking a lot about lately. And he said, you need to focus on your ethos or ethos. I don't know how the hell you pronounce it. I say ethos. It's really hard to describe, but I think the way that I like it is he summed it up as your credibility, your character, and your essence. So again, like, who are you as a person? Who are you as a business leader? Think about your ethos. And I think if you can project that out in the world, you will attract, they kind of say like attracts like, for good or for bad. So keep that in mind. That was awesome from Renee. The second one was from Spring Benson, and she is a phenomenal businesswoman, real estate agent, runs a from what I understand, a fairly large internal sales team, just like Elevation does, and then has a very large organization or a group of people that are riding side by side with her at EXP. And she wasn't real and walked away supposedly from a 7-figure revenue share business because she sees the future of EXP and what we've got going on here collectively. So I'm like, as somebody like that walks away from that and walked into this, I'm like, okay, we're at the right place. But what I loved that she brought up is she gave an example of, it's almost like the Gary V, document versus create. And it is the way that she developed her coaching program. So the first, kind of step she did was a behind the scenes of her operation. She kind of put it out there to her social media community. She's trying to attract team leaders, which is something that we're doing as well. And she said, hey, for the next 40 people that respond, I'll show you this behind the scenes kind of extravaganza of how we run our business. And again, I might get a couple facts wrong here, but I think they brought him in for a weekend or a couple days, showed everybody behind the scenes. I don't think they charged, if memory serves, and everybody loved it. And then they'll go, okay, well, what's next? Then she goes literally kind of on the fly. Great news. We've launched a 12-week kind of coaching accountability program. And that was more of a Zoom thing because I think people came in from across the country. So then she did that 12-week thing. Everybody loved it. And again, I think maybe she charged for that. And then people are like, awesome, what's next? And I'm sure she's like, oh shit, what is next? Then she got into more of in-depth mastermind, in-depth coaching, probably much more high ticket type of stuff, or for people that join her organization, which is kind of what we're doing as well. And so I was like, that's really, really smart. And you guys know me that you've been listening for a while. I overthink, overanalyze sometimes. Kind of again, documenting versus creating, or just making those things work and then just evolve and get better each time. So I love what Spring brought up. And then there's another guy, Brandon Brittingham. He is a funny dude. And I'm going to say it that way because I love his persona. He originally kind of showed almost like his before and after, and he, essentially looked like an accountant. And now he literally looks like he's like a super legit rapper. It's just his personal style and his vibe, which I really respect and appreciate. I think you guys would laugh at me if I dressed like that on stage, but I love it that he's leaning into it because that's who he is and that's what's important. And again, like attracts like. And so I hope this doesn't offend anybody, but I sat in on one of his sessions, and a big takeaway that I had from him that I really like is he's definitely kind of raw and in your face. It kind of like spoke to my inner Jersey. And he's like, if something's getting hard, if something's getting challenging and tough, he goes, don't be a little bitch. And I thought that was really funny. Like a lot of people kind of stood up and they're like, oh my gosh, that was kind of mildly offensive. To me, I loved it and I thought it was hilarious. But he's really big in the investor space. He's both an agent and runs a very successful team in, I believe, Maryland and Delaware, and I think even Northern Virginia. And they do a lot of same stuff that we do, but they also really hit the rental side hard, because I think it's a lot, better opportunity in lower price point markets. And so he's helping people build wealth through real estate and learning how to either be an investor or work with investors. And so what I love about that is it totally resonated with me with one of my favorite people, David Goggins, that those of you guys, I'm sure it's the same thing. I think Goggins said, like, don't be a little bitch or don't be a bitch. So again, it's not PC, it's simple, but it's effective. So I think there's sometimes when, for example, yesterday I was like, oh, I got to get a few more things done. I set my alarm because I'm weird for 4:57. Not 5 a.m. And normally I get up around 5:27. But I was like, no, man, don't be a little bitch. You got to get up. You got to get a few more things done because you got a lot going on here in the next day or two. So that was an awesome takeaway. So again, it's really helping me crystallize what are we doing as a company, which for us is delivering full circle value and 5-pillar wealth for our team members, our agents, our clients, and our business partners. So again, shit's going to be hard at every stage of growth, but just keep going. Okay, everybody. So home stretch, takeaway number 3, and we're going to kind of wrap this up because I got to go to the Broncos game soon. So anywho, takeaway number 3 is, again, what I learned and then how am I going to implement this with my team? One, just kind of A1A, it solidified that I need my real estate license. And it's funny because I've kind of held off for a long time. I thought it was maybe a hindrance. I was also kind of advised more from a legal perspective that if you keep changing hats of like investor no commissions versus agent commissions, you might get in hot water. And I've kind of moved away from that. The other nice thing is for me, it really helps because I got a team to help sell with me as well. So I'm going to get my license, more importantly, so I can be more involved and engaged from the EXP community. I was always kind of like riding my wife's coattails because she was the licensed agent. And so I want to be in those specific rooms with those high level people, and I need to get my license. So I'm studying with you guys now. I'm going to be getting my license here shortly. Again, there's an accelerator program for both AI and social media and content creation. So I'm having our team go through that. I'm going to go through that. Again, like you've got a multi-billion-dollar company, they're doing the tools and training, just put it into action. Again, don't reinvent the wheel. I'm like the worst at that. So whether it's success coaching, we're going to have our folks go through that. The other cool thing is they created a culture center. And so it's essentially a co-work space for real estate agents. And it was funny because they made this big announcement, and it was some huge team in I think in Orlando, somewhere in Florida. And they're like, we're going to do this. And I looked at Ann and I was like, you are a trendsetter, girl. You did this 3 years ago. So we're going to be coming out with some cool stuff to help EXP agents here at the Broadway Collective. And then just sales training and accountability. I think that's something that, again, it's there. You just have to use it and you have to implement it. The other thing that I really kind of hit home for me was be in the rooms with the people who are where you want to be or who have already achieved what you see as your dream. Don't be in the rooms that feel safe. Don't be in the rooms that feel comfortable. You're not going to grow. And so that was something that is a huge goal for me. And another cool thing that EXP just rolled out is they rolled out a luxury and sports and entertainment. Well, they've had luxury, but they also have a sports and entertainment division. So I've got some fun ideas. I don't want to spill the beans yet on how we can be involved in that, but like I want to be in that room. And so A, I'm going to get licensed, and B, you have to shoot your moonshot. So don't hold back. And so from kind of like truly lessons learned and accountability as we close this baby out is something that I really did a shitty job with. And again, I think people they're not vulnerable and they're not saying where they can improve. Man, we were so busy before this. My wife, Ann, was even more busy. She was taking our daughter, Kate, to see 4 colleges around Florida for the 5 days before we flew into Miami. So literally, Ann's running around, putting, thousands of miles on the rental car, taking our daughter all these schools. We put our daughter on a plane, fly back to Denver on Monday. I fly in to Miami on Monday. We literally were like 3 gates apart. It was crazy. Ann picked me up, and then we went to the conference. That's not the best way to do it. It was like kind of efficient, but it was really challenging. The other thing is you got to enjoy things. We had to quickly scoot back. I know I joked, but we had our girls at home alone. So I was like, I don't know how long I can press it. I should have just figured out a way to be there a little bit longer to enjoy it. We were checking out of the hotel in this beautiful, super awesome boutique hotel right on the water. And I was like, I didn't even see the ocean. So Ann and I are dressed up like in our conference gear. I think I literally had like a black shirt on or something stupid. It was still 80 degrees. So we raced out. We're like, wow, that's a beautiful pool. That would have been fun. Walk past the pool, bananas, the whole nine, get out to the ocean. I'm like, wow, this is really pretty. Look around. I'm like, let's take a couple of shots for social. I'm sitting there sweating and I'm like, well, let's go back to the airport. That was stupid. Don't do that. I've got an amazing wife and business partner. So we should enjoy it, whether it's Vegas or whether it's Miami or, wherever. So don't come in hot, I guess is my takeaway. Making better connections in advance. We made amazing connections while we were there, but I'm really going to be intentional here coming up for EXPCON next year. It'll be interesting. It's actually in Salt Lake City. So obviously very different vibe than Miami and Vegas, but we're going to be really intentional about put stuff together in advance. I think that's going to be huge. And for me, I'm going to invest in they have 2 tiers of tickets. They've got a VIP ticket that you get into tons more stuff and kind of a traditional ticket. So I'm going to invest in that. I'm going to spend more money. Again, I think it puts me in the right rooms to achieve what we want to do from the people that have already done it. And maybe they've already done it 10 times over. And one of my goals is to speak there. So who knows? I got really lucky and did it year 1, but I want to do it now year 2. So hopefully you guys have had a lot to take away from not only EXPCon as a specific conference, how we're implementing things and what we're doing at Elevation, but just the way to strategize and think about attending big conferences in general. I think there's a great recipe for success. And hopefully you guys have had some good takeaways. Use this framework. And I would love to kind of hear tips and tricks that you guys are doing. So it doesn't have to be real estate, it could be finance, could be personal investing, could be health and wellness, like whatever. But I want to really hear what you guys are doing. The other thing is if you want to come with us, let me know because we have access to bring guests to this thing. So man, like I said, it's going to be in Salt Lake City. They're rolling out the red carpet. It's going to be really, really fun. It's close. So who knows, we might drive. But again, if this is stuff that sounds interesting to you as well, let me know and we can talk more brokerage shop too as well. Again, we're hyper-focused on investment real estate, but it's been a blessing to be kind of under the EXP umbrella and how we can all do this side by side. with people across the country and across the world. The other cool thing is they also have EXPCON internationally every year. So this year it's going to be in Paris. Next year it's going to be in Portugal. So one of our kind of bucket list things is to say, cool, we can go to both the national one and the international one. So again, just things that I think that you guys should strive for if it's important to you. Hopefully you guys got a lot out of today. Hopefully we get a big Broncos win. Anytime you can beat the Raiders, that is a good day in my book. I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.